Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Sports Live with Steve and Justin. Tonight, NCAA madness, a little madness from here and there, some surprises, some things we're not surprised at. But here we are on a Monday night with Steve and Justin. Here we go. And tonight we have with us Keith. He converted over the past week.
That's it.
It was a pastor. Now he's a rabbi.
I'm trying to hit each faith. I'm behind next week, so I'll be, I'm working. This way I spend my time when I'm not watching college basketball. I'm just, studying theology. I did the whole book of Deuteronomy last week. Thanks to you. Thank you. That was a big help.
I forgot all about that.
Hebrews, all of it. I blew through all that stuff, so it was great. So
let me know my degree is in law and society. So when you're ready to go back to the Code of Hammurabi, I'm all in for you.
I'm in.
It's funny because I have another podcast. It's called History's Agenda, and I was speaking to a guy that does remote viewing, where they're guys that used to work for the government and look at things not where they are, that they can basically see with their minds. That's the short. And they can go back in time, forward in time, and all kinds of things. And this guy did an investigation, went back and looked at the Code of Hammurabi. I'm like, wow. Who knows that? I was like, well, you're lucky you got a guy that studied that right after Deuteronomy.
Could we bring him on the basketball show and have him pick the Final Four?
Yeah, he probably could, but he doesn't do that kind of thing. So anyway, NCAA Micro Madness.
That's it.
I just want to say, I told you Illinois. Yes. I still believe in Illinois. I think they're going to go to the Final Four. I could be totally wrong, and it wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah,
what do you think?
Agree. After seeing them play, after we got off air last week, I went back and studied the South bracket one more time, and I just am so partial to the Big Ten. I crossed out Houston, then I crossed out Florida, then I wrote Florida over Houston, then I crossed them out and I wrote in Illinois because you gave me business about picking number 1 seed. So I was like, you know what? I'll put Illinois. Yeah, you said, oh, way to go out on a limb. But to be fair, I did get High Point right. I did get Texas right. So, I'm doing all right. I think I got 13 out of 16.
I have to say there are not a lot of number ones. I mean, you have Duke, you have Arizona, and you have Michigan. Beyond that, you got nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's teams that listen, I think Illinois is great and could go to the Final Four. I do. Or the Elite Eight or whatever you call it. I do, but
I think they're going to the Final Four for sure now.
Houston's no chump.
Well, here's the thing. If they were playing on a neutral court, I would say Illinois had a good chance. Houston's playing home games. I mean, Houston's got Illinois at home, and then the winner of Nebraska and Iowa. They're playing in Houston.
Nebraska is a surprise because Nebraska had never won a tournament game before. And I called Keith on, was it Thursday? We were on for tip-off, and they showed the stat. Nebraska had never won a tournament game, which blew my mind. And I said, you know what? If they win one, they're going to win a few. So
and they did.
They won, and then they beat Vandy.
They interviewed Price Santa for 5 threes at the half, and they were like, this is the Nebraska record for most threes in a game, and he was like, yeah, so, like it was like the halftime reporter was like, jamming him up with that, and he's like, yeah, like we've never been here before, so it's not a big thing. But yeah, no, they did a really nice job. I don't know, the kid you got to watch who's fascinating on Nebraska is the kid Hoiberg's son, Sam Hoiberg. He's 6 feet tall. Every game he has some statistic that makes absolutely no sense. He had 9 rebounds in the first game, right? He had 8 assists in the next game. He's, he always gets probably the most impactful player in the country who doesn't score 10 points a game. I mean, but he always has some sort of statistic where he adds greatly to the team. So, I mean,
it would make you think he could do whatever he wants. right?
Connor, yeah, he's 6 feet. I mean, he's 6 feet tall, standing on the phone book, and he, grabs 9 rebounds in an NCAA game. It's just the kid just sort of asserts himself. He's got that headband on and makes him look he's in the
Right.
World Bombs or something like that. I
Yeah,
mean,
how
like
fond I am of headbands.
yeah, I know. He's like trying to look like Andre Agassi because that's a real hip look for the kids
Well,
today.
I would love to see Illinois and Nebraska. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I would love dabble in your home game thing real quick. And I have to say, if I'm going to be surprised about something, and there are a couple things I'm surprised at, but certainly something I was surprised at how Iowa, in the last seconds of the game, took control and won that game and left Florida spinning because they didn't seem to be they weren't prepared for that last moment. They
absolutely.
let the kid shoot the 3. And he says, apparently, on the interview that I saw after the game, they interviewed him and he said, well, what did you say to your players? I said, give me the ball. I got it.
I love it. He had a great tournament last year.
And the coach is sitting there and said, did that happen? And, and the other kid goes, yeah. I mean, you got to say something for a kid in that moment against a team like Florida. I mean, and Florida didn't know where they were.
Absolutely. Well, everybody makes a big deal about Todd Golden winning the national championship last year, and rightfully so. He's a great coach. But Ben McCollum is 44 years old. Division II, he won 4 national championships at Northwest Missouri State.
Right.
Jumped up to Drake, took basically his entire roster with him and a few other D2 kids, then went to the Sweet 16 last year with Drake, nearly knocked off Texas Tech. And this year he gets the Iowa job. He takes he takes half the Drake roster with him, and then he pulls up Fulgeris, the kid who had the game-winning shot out of Robert Morris, great player, great outside shooter. You got 2 freshmen in there. He's put this together out of guys who were like transfers from Wyoming and stuff
Right.
like in 1 year. I mean, I think you see in the beginning of a really
But he had them ready to play.
Yeah,
they knew what it was and prepare. And you see that from time to time with these kids that they're not prepared for those big moments because they didn't have them all season. They pay and they win by, the big teams. They play, they win everything by 20 points, 15 points. You hear these things. They're not in that crunch moment like it's going to happen when a team plays over their heads, if that's a real term, but you know what I mean.
One of the things you saw with Iowa is when the game started out, the game was a very fast-paced game early, and that was what Florida was looking for. Iowa got out to a little bit of a lead, and they took the pace down significantly. They were running deeper into the shot clock, and they were getting much better high percentage looks later on in the possession. The kid Banks, who's a 6'7" guard, who again he was a kid who was a JUCO. He was a Division II kid in Florida that went to Drake last year, and he's a guard, but he plays like a forward. He had 20 points. He was fantastic. Like they just got these great games out of these guys. But it was funny because it started out feeling like it was going to be a Florida runaway type game, but the pace really became an Iowa game as things got going, and they really controlled the tempo, they controlled the pace, they controlled the energy. And Florida made a run late, but that was Iowa's game. And it was impressive. I mean, it was really great to see a team that, won a national championship last year run into a team that was basically a bunch of mid-majors last year, and the mid-major teams win.
Yeah. Well, another team, I spoke a lot about UConn last time, and I really thought they were going to get bumped, and neither team they played really gave them a run for the money, if not the opposite. And now they're coming into Michigan State.
Yeah.
And I'm a Michigan State guy. I like them. I liked them last year. I like them this year. And I think they're really going to give them a run for the money, and I hope they beat them.
Yeah.
I think we're seeing a major effect from portal transfers, especially now 2 tournaments in a row where it's pretty much chalk into the Sweet 16. I mean, there wasn't a major upset that got anybody you would consider a Cinderella in the Sweet 16. And the portal has a lot to do with that. You go from, like you just mentioned, Iowa before, you're able to bring kids in that can play right away, but also they're more mature. The average starting team is like 21 years old. They're not all freshmen like it was when, when I guess Calipari and Pitino, they had those amazing freshman teams and they would all play 1 year and go to the NBA. You're not really seeing that. And you mentioned on Saturday we were talking about Michigan, and you said to me the difference between them and some of these other teams, who's going to take the last shot for Michigan?
Yeah.
And it's not just Michigan, it's really any team. And Judge, you just said it yourself. The kids told his coach, I got this. As a coach, you want that from your players, but you can't ask that of them. They have to show it to you.
Right.
So that plus having a coach that knows what he's doing, a good coach, will get you far in this tournament. And I think we're going to see that as we go forward, that what coach is going to let his team play, yet get out of them that I want the ball in this spot mentality if he hasn't already coached it into them, because you still have to coach it into them. I mean, any kid these days has got, enough arrogance on the stage to want the ball, but some kids kind of fall into that, I don't want the ball. And you can see it on their faces sometimes. You can see it when they take the court late in games, under 2 minutes. All of a sudden, they look unsure of themselves. Some kids just turn it up a level. Michigan State's got a guy like that now. They've been on fire. I think Acuff Jr. at Arkansas is that guy. So what do we see in the Sweet 16? We see teams that, we said last week, it's hard not to chalk this bracket, but, you have who's advanced? Arizona, Arkansas, coaches and players that want the ball. You have Purdue who looked, like they're big and long, Purdue.
Yeah.
Texas has advanced, and they had that, essentially a warm-up game, which we talked about that last week. That 11 seed playing in, it's a warm-up game, and they're playing a competitive team. Whoever wins that game has got momentum coming into this tournament that other teams don't necessarily have.
Sure.
You could talk about the Kemba Walker team from when they had to win 6 straight to get into the tournament. They did, and then they won the tournament, and it was all on his back, basically. I don't know that I see anybody like that in this tournament except for maybe Acuff Jr. But as you go through the bracket, you get down to the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, but
and
don't forget NC State gave Texas a run for their money.
Oh, no, I'm not. But that game could have went either way. And we talked about Keith said he liked NC State. I said I like Texas. Either way, we felt that 11 seed was going to be trouble in this tournament. And here they are in the Sweet 16.
I'll tell you what.
Go ahead. So all I'm going to say is, and move on from Michigan and UConn a little bit, Duke and St. John's. Everybody out there, raise your right hand and want to see St. John's beat Duke. All right. So not just us. Everybody listening.
More than one right hand, I'd raise.
We want to see St. John's beat Duke.
There's only 2 places in the country rooting for Duke: North Carolina and Connecticut. That's it.
Yeah. I got my Rick Pitino ice cream white suit on today in honor of St. John's getting the win they got, because I was I was at the thrift store, it had a little green tag on it, which meant it was $1 today. So here we go in honor of Rick Pitino. It probably was his. Oh, this thing's like 9 sizes too big for me. So
you probably
How big is that jacket?
You bought it in the thrift store across from Iona, didn't you? So anyway, let's not forget, Kansas did give them a run for the money. Kansas is a very good team, and I think we all thought about Kansas going a little farther than that. But, when everybody talked about St. John's being, peaking, that they, maybe they didn't play this well during the season, but he's got them to that fine point. He got them enough to get in, and now he's going to take them all the way.
And I will say this about Pitino, one of the great calls I've seen in a game. And, that game was, they had a big lead in that game, and they let it really slip away. It was
I thought it was gone.
And I'm starting to think, they're going to blow it again this year. And the play he called down the end was absolutely genius. So what he does, I wish I had like the telestrator for this, but he has so everybody in the building thinks the ball's going to Zuby, right? So he sets Zuby up for a high pick and roll. So Zuby brings the defender out. So the guy who's on Darling, who gets the ball, kind of looks over like he's kind of, wanting to help out if Zuby gets the ball, right? Or some kind of pick gets set or anything like that. Zuby brings the pick further out, so the defender follows him out. Darling, who's left-handed, goes right. And so they're all crossed up how to guard him. Darling's 2 steps in front of him, throws in a layup right-handed. I mean, it was a brilliant call. Like, down the end of the game, because Darling had hit a shot. So, like, putting the ball in the hand of an Idaho State transfer with everything on the line. Nobody in the gym thought he was taking that shot. And Kansas had been overplaying Zuby the whole game. And the fact that Pitino saw that edge right there, to me, that was what makes him a great coach. I mean, just seeing that in that spot was unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say about that. I mean, Duke's Duke. They dominated, both their games. They had to play. I mean, Siena gave them a run for the money a little bit, but at the end of the day, you knew that Duke was going to come back together.
Siena had them on the hook. I mean, they were up 11 points at the half.
I
thought the Siena coach made a huge, I don't want to say he made a huge mistake. I think he just took a gamble and it didn't work. He didn't sub in that game until late in the second half. And at some point, when you have a lead like that, you're playing a great team. They're going to come back, okay? Yeah. I thought that with that 11-point lead, you would know in the first 3 or 5 minutes, are we going to stay in this 10-point range for long enough? But the reality is you got to rest those guys. They got to come off the floor at some point. And I guess he used halftime as that downtime. I thought they needed to break somewhere around the
maybe
the 10-minute mark, because if they were going to win that game, they would have had to come back to do it anyway. But
let me. So we don't. I don't know. Maybe maybe the rabbi knows, but I don't know what they did all year. Did they do like the Knicks did and never sub anybody all year? So it wasn't their game. I don't believe that that's what happened.
I think it was just the tournament, and he played to win. He went with his best 5 guys, and that was it.
He has 2 bench guys he uses regularly that are
Duke is only using the 7-man rotation.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say. Duke's going a shorter rotation as well. For me, I didn't mind it because my thought was McNamara was playing to stay in the game the whole time, right? They have an 11-point lead. They lose anything.
And Duke was out to 2 of their best players.
Absolutely. I think he just stuck with his starters. They did lose it, though. Like, at the end of the game, they didn't have any energy, but I got where McNamara was going. I mean, he really doesn't have anybody coming off the bench besides 1 or 2 guys who could have given him serious minutes there who could have helped.
He's going to get a big-time job eventually, and he's going to be somebody to have to deal with as a coach at a big school for sure.
That's going to be in the next 10 minutes. Syracuse just got did you see the guy, what's his name? Turned down Syracuse to take the Providence job, and so McNamara is all but the guy at Syracuse. Which, I mean, it's his 3rd year as a head coach, and he's going to Syracuse. I mean, first of all, Syracuse is getting turned down for the Providence job is crazy to me. But also, like, McNamara, I think should be.
Is it really? Providence has historically been a pretty good team. I mean, Syracuse used to be part of the Big East, but the Big East ain't what the Big East is anymore, right?
No, you're right. I mean, there was a time where, Providence was like, a 7 seed in the Big East tournament, and Syracuse was perennially, in the running for it. But it's not that day anymore in Syracuse. I mean, that was a really, like, when I saw Hodgson turn that job down, I was like, I mean, he's from Buffalo, so he's from upstate New York. So I mean, Buffalo's not next to Syracuse, but
it's not
for
that
him,
far.
for him to take the Providence job was crazy. I couldn't believe that, but really, that is where things are at right now.
Right.
Syracuse just isn't that good a job for a lot of people. So
it could be just the NIL money that's available. It could be, you can use the porthole, the game has changed, and NIL changes everything, right? Because when you're looking at what you're going to get paid in the pros, and you look at the money you're making now, and that money's more than most likely more than you've ever seen in your life, unless you're a rich kid, which most of them are not, right? So, you think to yourself, I'm not so bad. I'm having a good time. I don't have to work. I go to school. I play basketball.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyway, to move on to another part of the bracket, we're not surprised by Arizona, Arkansas, right? We thought that from the beginning. We are surprised of what would happen with Wisconsin and High Point. I mean, that was a great game. And, High Point just took it to them. Now, at the end, they started to come back, but they never let up, and they ended up beating them.
Best part of that game for me is the kid Chase Johnson, who was the 3-point shooter. He had not hit a 2-point shot all year, and he gets open down and hits his first 2-point shot of the year, and it's the most important bucket of the game.
Yeah,
that was a great game. I mean,
it went out of the way to point that out too.
Yeah, no, and then, I mean, it was wild to see Cam Fletcher, because I'm like, Cam Fletcher was on Kentucky, like, in the 1980s. I mean, he's been there forever. Not literally, I think he started in 2019, so he's, like, on his 4th or 5th team, and, he had a great game. I mean, they looked fantastic, it just, they didn't have enough to knock off Arizona, but that was, absolutely, that program did a great job this weekend, so,
Yeah, I thought that was good. I mean, there's not much to talk about in that part of the bracket, but certainly now we're looking at Texas and Purdue. We talked about Purdue, but, Gonzaga did beat your daughter's or son's alma mater, Kennesaw State, and Purdue beat Queens.
Yeah.
But we expected a little bit more out of Miami.
Yeah.
And we expected a lot more out of Gonzaga.
The thing that's been impressive about Purdue is, Smith has been really good. Clough has been really good all year. The guys who I haven't been sure on, who have been, hit or miss, have been Lawyer and Kaufman-Rent. Both of them had probably their best games of the season against Miami. Lawyer was 4 for 4 from 3. Kaufman-Rent had 19 points. He was dominant. He looked like, I mean, he was coming into the season. He was a National Player of the Year candidate. He has not looked right all year. He's been 8 points off his average. That was what he looked like last year. And if Purdue plays like that, they got a shot to beat Arizona. I mean, like, that's a team that really is starting to gel. And again, if Lawyer can stretch the defense and hit 4 threes in a game like he did against Miami, all of a sudden the inside's wide open and Kaufman-Renn lives in there. And they got Clough in there. And then they got a point guard who could move the ball all over the place. So it's like, those two guys could make a huge difference in this. I did not expect it that good.
Late in the game, the ball's going to be in that kid's hands for sure.
I look forward to that Texas-Purdue game. I mean, it just looks really good.
Sean Miller's done a great job with Texas, too. I don't love him. Do you remember when he was a kid, he used to go on Johnny Carson? He used to go on he was like a little kid, and he would go on the Johnny Carson show, and he would dribble when he was little, seriously. And you look him up on YouTube. It's the craziest thing you ever see. And, and then he went on, he was a point guard at Pitt, and I used to go to Pitt games and yell at him. I used to call him sausage fingers, which was probably a mean thing for me to say. But then, and
I've said worse.
Yeah, I was good. Well, I mean, he got over it, obviously. I mean, he didn't say anything bad about me on the wiretap, so. Anyway,
okay.
So, I'll get off Sean Miller.
Michigan and Alabama. I've been on many a wiretap, so don't kid yourself. Michigan and Alabama, we expected Alabama and we expected Michigan. You can't be that surprised. I mean,
Michigan's going to have its hands full with Iowa State when they get there. That's for sure.
I know that's
not
the
to
next
overlook.
group.
Not to overlook.
No, that's exactly what I was getting to. I was going to just blow right by them. Iowa State has my attention.
Mine too, and I think the Michigan-Alabama game should be a good game because Alabama can score. I think Michigan's going to blow them out of the building. The way Michigan looked in the second half of that game the other day was fantastic. They defend extremely well. Alabama, they could score, but they can't really play defense. I mean, they're an average defensive team at best. And Michigan's going to be able to control the tempo of that game. I mean, they may blow them out of that game, but I think Iowa State, especially because when Joshua Jefferson went down,
Right.
in the Kentucky game, it was looking like he might be done, but he actually might be available to play some in the Sweet 16. Even if he doesn't play, Lipsy played great in the game. Torrey played great in the game. Those guys are really coming on. Torrey's a freshman, and he's shown flashes. He's only like an 8-point a game player, but he's shown flashes of a guy who could put up 30 in a game. So
Right.
you get him, you get Jefferson back, and the Mama Luke, who's killing it from outside. And like they really do. They have a shot at beating Michigan. I would not be surprised if they beat Michigan.
Well, I mean, they could have been the number 1 seed, Iowa State.
Yeah,
They're
absolutely.
they're that good. It's not, I went with my historical gut versus the 2 seeds. So that's where my bracket's getting busted right now. That in Florida,
Okay.
but
Picking Michigan,
I
though,
did okay in the first 2 rounds. I mean, I went 15 out of 16 on the West, and I think I went 14 out of 16 on the East and the South. So not bad.
I was
But
gonna
we'll see
say,
what happens this
out of
week. And I think there's going to be
curiosity,
a lot of red on my bracket.
who'd you have for the Final Four?
At the end of the podcast, I had Michigan, Arizona, Michigan State, and Florida. And then I changed Florida after you talked me out of it, sort of, to Illinois.
Isn't that amazing, huh? Saved your butt on that one.
I'll stick with what I originally said on the podcast. I'll take the loss on that one. I gave you High Point. I gave you Texas, right? I liked the 9 seeds, but then I didn't follow through. So it is what it is. If Michigan wins, I'm all right.
I got Michigan.
That bracket though, the UConn Michigan State game, the Duke St. John's game. I mean, that's the Final Four. And with all due respect to everybody else,
Lot
All
of
right,
years.
so
games
let's
are-
talk about the Elite Eight. Let's talk about the Elite Eight for a minute. What do you got? What do you got for me, Rabbi?
I'm thinking I seen Houston and Iowa. I feel like Iowa. I thought Iowa had enough to beat Florida. I had that in my bracket originally, but I thought they played so well in that game. I think they got enough to get past Nebraska as well. They played Nebraska twice this year. First one was 55-53, was like a bloodbath, but a great game. Second one was Iowa lost in overtime, but it was a very good game. I think Iowa's got enough to win there. I think they lose to Houston, and you get Houston there. I think you end up with Michigan State, St. John's, in which case I like Michigan State. I just think the kid Fears is to me, he might end up being the player of the tournament. He's just a great point guard. And he's been dynamite all year. I got Arizona, Purdue. I originally had Arizona. After what I saw in the Miami game, I like Purdue. I really think they're peaking right now. This is the Purdue that I was thinking might show up possibly, but like they're here. So if Kaufman-Renn plays like that and Lawyer plays like that, I think they're okay. And I got Iowa State, and my final's going to be Iowa State versus Houston, and I got Houston taking home a national championship, which is cool because I'm in a bracket where I'm in some pool where it's like $1,000, and like I'm the only person who has Houston. So if Houston wins, I'm going to be the happiest person in the world because I get everything else wrong. I get Houston right. I won the bracket, so
What do you have, Justin?
Elite Eight, I have Duke, Michigan State, with Michigan State advancing because I was uncertain of whether or not both those players were going to come back. Now it looks like one player might come back for Duke, but I'm still going with Michigan State. I think they're playing. I think they're really hot. I had Florida, Illinois, and then I had Florida going to the Final Four, but then I switched it after Monday, but I'll take the L on that one. Then I have Arizona, Purdue, and I went with Arizona, and I had Michigan and Kentucky, who really let me down. So obviously I'm going with Michigan in the Final Four there.
And who's your final game?
I see the results this week.
Michigan State.
I mean, I'm a little different. I think St. John's is going to beat Duke. I don't care what happens. I think he's going to get them up to there. And I think this is a changing of the guard week.
Yeah,
I think Michigan State's going to beat UConn. I think Nebraska's going to beat Iowa, even though I like Iowa a lot. Yep. And I think Illinois and Iowa, Illinois and Nebraska are going to be a great game next time. And
Big Ten has a great opportunity to separate itself.
I'm
from
thinking
the rest of the country here.
Iowa State, Michigan, Texas, and Arizona. That's what I think.
I like my Texas pick.
Yeah,
I like Texas the whole time. I mean, I couldn't understand why they were a playing game. I thought they were better than that, but
Yeah,
you
they
know,
barely made it too. I think they were the according to when they seeded the tournament, they were the last team in. So,
yeah, but they
that
were number 11. They have them as 11.
yeah. Well, because the lower seeds are all, conference
Yeah,
winners,
yeah. It's still crap.
Texas was literally was like the last team they put in, and they've looked great. And, again, Sean Miller's been a fantastic coach wherever he's been. They also go on probation every 2 years after he leaves. But, like that's no longer a problem since there's almost no way to go on probation anymore. I mean, can you go on probation? Can you actually are there violations to be committed? Like if you start shooting players up with Winnestrol before games, is that a problem even? Is that illegal anymore?
Well, even if it was, they could just transfer out through the portal. The school get punished, and then nothing happens to the players.
I mean, honestly, the NCAA could use the code of Hammurabi right now. I mean, they don't have anything. They
An
don't have
eye for an eye.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like they don't have anything else in terms of rules or anything like that. It's the Wild West out there. So why not just go back to Hammurabi?
I guess that's true.
Let's get him
All
on
right,
next.
so
we have fun.
What else? So what else? Anything else before we let you go?
Just enjoying the pollen. I'm going to go out swimming it in a bit.
So, so are you going to come back next week so we can talk about the next? We might as well carry this all the way through to the end if you're around.
Judge, I would be honored. I would, Your Honor, Your Eminence, Your Holiness, I would be honored to have a chance to join you again. By the way, congratulations. Justin told me that they're rebooting the series The Shield that you used to be on. And you get a chance to reprise.
I edit that shit out, right?
Big
You're out.
Paul Goggins has such great chemistry.
The whole time, I'm like, all of a sudden, when you watch the final podcast, people are going like, "Who's Steven Justin talking to?"
The pastor or rabbi?
You're a big hit this weekend up in Saugerties. I can tell you that.
All right, I'm going to Magic City, fellas. I'll see you.
All right.
Good to see you, pal.
Have a good one. Thank you for everything.
Thanks again.
Salud.
We just got finished with Keith Spillett talking Sweet 16. Make sure you like and subscribe. Share with your friends.
Yeah, he's great, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he gives us these players' names. I'm like, oh yeah, I know that guy. I saw him play, but I don't know his name.
He is to basketball what Dom is to conspiracy theories.
Yeah, that's true. So, we're only a week away, right, from the NFL draft. Is it next Monday?
No, it's at the end of April. NFL draft.
End of April. Let me
right?
look it up.
Yeah. Late April.
What day is that? What day? 23rd, April. Oh, it's April. Yeah. So we're a month away.
Major League Baseball, I think, starts next week in the middle of March again.
Yeah, the Yankee game is on Netflix, if you can imagine that.
I mean, what is that? I mean, come on. What are we doing here? It's ridiculous now.
Well, they try to be the NFL, and they don't have no ability.
Even the NFL putting these games on these ridiculous streaming networks, and for what? I just don't I mean, I know it's about money. I get it. And the people that consume it, that continue to just keep buying packages, I mean, shame on them too. As a consumer group in this country where, yeah. But it makes it unenjoyable and unwatchable.
I have a lot of the streaming services, so I don't watch them because I don't watch Netflix so I can get a baseball game. I would never do that. Right. I watch Netflix because I want to see the Peaky Blinders movie that just came out, by the way, in case anybody
There's
Peaky
so
Blinders
much
fans.
out there now, and the content is changing. The way you even said it with the camera that you had to buy for this, it's Netflix compatible or compliant. Who would have thought that would be a phrase that you would hear, that you had to film according to what the broadcaster wanted, not how you wanted to make your movie.
It's so funny that there are a list of cameras and it's broad. But if your movie, your homegrown documentary, and was what I was working on to film, doesn't use one of these cameras. I mean, there are higher end cameras, real movie cameras. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
They don't even look at you. So
It's all digital. You couldn't make a movie like The Godfather today, the way it was filmed. You probably couldn't make a
Well,
Western today the way it was filmed, but
it was filmed the old-fashioned way, right? And Stanley Kubrick and him and others all did it that way, you know? And that's what gives it the great view of it all.
how you watch it, how you consume it, it's all part of it. And then things, I mean, I'll be the first to admit I hate change, but to not be able to just turn the television on and watch a ball game is criminal to me. And, you
Uh,
know, it used
with
to be
a
the blackouts. If they didn't sell enough tickets, you couldn't watch the game, whatever it was. They had these broadcasting constraints.
So you had the NFL, you had the believe me. So you had in baseball, you watched the Mets on Channel 9, Ralph Kiner, Kiner's Corner, the whole thing. And then the Yankees
Yanks
were
were
on
on
Channel
PIX.
11. And you just say, "Are the Yanks on tonight?" And then you just went to the channel and looked.
7
That's all
o'clock
there
came on.
was.
That was it.
And you had great, you had Scooter when they decided not to take him back as a player, became an announcer. He's long gone, long left this world. But, you had Bill White, who later became the president of the National League.
He was
The
great.
two of them
Really
together
good
were
guy.
amazing.
Absolutely. They were a lot of fun to listen to. I mean, obviously I'm a homer, but that was my home team. So, what else was I going to listen to? But the stories they told and, the feel for the game that they had as ex-players, they were really good. They were very enjoyable to listen to. Today, it's just a lot different.
Did you ever hear the story of Scooter telling how he got suckered into doing the baseball thing for the Meatloaf song "Paradise by a Dashboard Light"?
I read the story once, but I never heard him tell the story. Yeah.
He said he got conned by him, that he had no idea he did the bit, but he never heard the song. He had no idea what it was about. And then when it came out, he was shocked because he was he was a funny guy. He was notorious to leaving the game in the 7th inning.
They would take pictures of the bridge
to get across the bridge in time.
You'd hear him say, "Hey, Messer, how's the traffic?"
So funny he was.
Different time for sure. I mean, that was all part of it, though. It was part of the charm of watching the broadcast. Was that, especially in the lean years, you had nothing else to look forward to.
Well, in the Mets, you had Ralph Kiner, and who else did you have? You had
well,
kid sleeping.
Who just left? Who's retiring this year? Howie Rose.
Yeah, but he was way before him.
Yeah. I don't remember who was with the Mets because I didn't really watch the Mets. I always watched the Yankees. The Yankees had Seaver in the booth at times. I remember that because he used to razz Rizzuto nonstop. I met Phil Rizzuto at the stadium on my 17th birthday. That was pretty cool.
I met Rizzuto once too. He signed a baseball for me. I still have it, obviously.
Signed my program or my yearbook, whatever it was.
Yeah, he was a great guy. Yogi was a great guy too.
I was in awe. I shook his hand and I just stood there with my mouth open, and my girlfriend grabbed the book out of my hand, flipped through the pages while he was talking to us, and he carried the conversation. I don't think I said 2 words because I was just awestruck. And she handed him the book, and she's like, "Will you sign our program?" He's, "Oh, sure, anything for you kids." And that was the coolest thing ever.
Here we go. Incredible. Oh my God, they got the broadcasts on YouTube, starting with the first game, 3/24/1962.
Oh, wow.
So those are all on YouTube, guys, if you want to watch them. It says
Highly
all
recommended.
known 60s Mets radio broadcasts. That's why the radio broadcast. Back when the manager was Casey Stengel.
Wow.
So
Totally
yeah.
different era of baseball. It's funny. We were talking about, looking at the way we grew up and how we consume sports, and we are all in agreement that
Here it is. Lindsey Nelson, Bob Murphy. 62,
Bob Murphy, right.
62 to 78.
Wow.
Ralph Kiner was a hell of a player.
Yeah.
And Lindsey Nelson was a famous broadcaster. He used to do
a bunch of home runs.
The horse racing and everything.
Different time. Those broadcasts gave you a lot of information on the history of the game, and whereas today, I feel like you don't really get that. You get the stats, right, from the producer, but, like, what they talk about during the game doesn't really connect with the history of the game, and I think as kids, when we grew up, we were connected to the history of the game, and they taught you about Jackie Robinson in school and the color barrier and things like that. It was very important, but you knew the history of the game. You knew who the players from yesteryear were, the icons of the game, the immortals of the game. And today I feel like I don't think it's the history of the game is being taught to younger generations. I don't think they have an appreciation
You
for
think
it.
the younger generation, the players don't, the coaches don't know the younger stuff. So listen, Lindsey Nelson, Bob Murphy, and Ralph Kiner started in 62, and they went on to in 77, there were still the three of them. In 78, Bob Wolf came with him. He was a broadcaster, but he was no young chicken either. And then Steve Albert was with them. It was Bob Murphy, Ralph Kiner, Steve Albert. And then they added Bart Goldshaw, whoever that is. I don't know who that is. So, and then in 81, they added Art Shamsky, who was a former Met from the 60s to 72. He was a player.
I met him too. I met him. Where did we meet him? At the what do they do at the Queens Baseball Festival? He was there.
Yeah, and then so Lauren Brown came in for a 1 year. Then in 83 becomes Tim McCarver, Bud Harrelson.
Bud Harrelson, yeah. Should have remembered that
he
one.
was one of the 69 guys. Ralph Kiner was still there. I mean,
he was there right up until he passed away almost.
And then Gary Thorne, Howie Rose. No, Ralph Kiner was still there in 96. Still going on. So he's gone in. No, he's still there when Tom Seaver was in 2005 for a year. Tom Seaver in for a few years. Wow.
Yeah, and then he got sick too.
Happens to the best of us. And Todd Zeal. Wow, I don't remember that. Jerry Blevins. Well, Todd Zeal's doing the broadcast now.
He does SNY, Todd Zeal.
Oh, is that what it is? It was probably I don't listen. Dale Murphy. It's a whole bunch of not my favorite players. Though Keith, the only thing I ever had about Keith Hernandez was that people thought he was better than Don Mattingly.
Keith Hernandez played on a turf field with 3 other Hall of Famers in the infield. That's all I'm going to say. Mattingly played with Paul Zuvella. No, I'm kidding.
And Mattingly had
they're
a
both
great.
They're both great, but Keith Hernandez couldn't play shortstop left-handed. All right? How about that? I'll say that. Mattingly's my guy. You know that. I love that guy. And he was fantastic with the glove, and for somebody who, was not fleet of foot, he was a very good base runner. On top of the fact that he was one of the best hitters in baseball for 5 years, prolific player who played through injury at the end, which, you really don't know much about it until you hear stories afterwards, exactly how hurt he was.
So here we go. Here's the announcers for the Yankees starting in 47 when they started doing it on television. Mel Allen, how about that? Russ Hodges, then Bill Slater, then in 49, Mel Allen, Kirk Gowdy, then in 50, Mel Allen, Kirk Gowdy, Dizzy Dean.
Dizzy Dean, wow.
Then
no kidding. Kirk Gowdy was great.
He was great. I loved Kirk Gowdy. He did everything. Then Art Gleason for a little bit, Jim Woods, Joey Brown, who was a comedian, did it. And then 54, Mel Allen, Red Barber.
That had to be the greatest era of baseball ever to listen to.
My
father loved Mel Allen. I know that much.
They're there until Scooter comes in 58.
Wow, he was there that early.
57. I'm sorry.
That's incredible.
Yeah, because they didn't hire him back. They told him hit the road.
Go to
They
the
just go to the booth. So then you have Mel Allen, Barber, and Rizzuto all the way up to when Jerry Coleman comes in 63 and adds to that. And then it's Coleman.
Jerry Coleman, a good voice.
Then in 65, Joe Garagiola.
Wow,
who then went to
the
Today Show.
Yeah.
So I know
he was good. He was very intense.
I love Joe Garagiola because he always told the story, and I think we've told it before, and I'm going to tell it again, is that he lived around the corner from Yogi Berra. And he said most players that make the major leagues are not only the best player on their high school team, they're the best player on their college team. And then they go into the pros and, everything levels off because everybody's the best player.
Yep.
He goes, me, I wasn't even the best player on my block. Because Yogi Berra lived around a corner from me. So Frank Messer comes in 68.
Messer was good. He was fun.
Yeah. Whitey comes in, Whitey Ford, 69 to 71. And Bill White comes in 71 too. And then it's Rizzuto, Messer, White, all the way up to
great crew.
Right. So and then in 79, you have the beginning of Sports Channel. And
you had Al Troutwig and Jim
New York Sports Truck.
Right?
So you have all them, and you get Fran Healy still there, and it's going on, and Spencer Ross, and then for when was this? They had commentators added in. Listen to this: you had Bobby Mercer in 83, 84. You had Mickey Mantle in 85. 6, 7
on PIX
and 8.
or on the Sports Channel.
I'm guessing the
I don't
Sports
remember
Channel.
Mickey.
Me either. Then you had It's Enough to Make Me change the channel. And you had Lou Piniella.
Yeah.
Fine. And then you get to on the television, you still had, the usual crowd, but the radio, you started to get
Sterling,
Tommy Hutton, Tony Kubrick, Al Troutwig. On and on.
I really enjoyed Al Troutwig. Jim Cat was great.
And then you get Rick Cerrone on the television, Ken Singleton,
Tommy
John, Tim McCarver, Susan Waldman. I love Jim Cat. He should have been a Hall of Famer, and I don't think he ever made it.
By today's standards, he's far and away a Hall of Famer, for sure.
Yeah, and you had Paul O'Neill come in, and David Cohn, and you started going the more latter-day players, but
Ken Singleton and Jim Cat were very good. They were very fun to listen to. They told some good stories. They're very classy broadcasters. I'd say it that way. And they had good stories. They did a good job with telling the story of the game as it was going on.
So let's look at, since you brought it up, let me see if I could find a list of 2006 NFL streaming games.
I'm sure there's more than ever because it's every Thursday night. Plus, what's the other one they added?
Oh, God. Wait till you see it.
I can't imagine the list must be incredibly long. I just can't imagine it's not.
I made it 2006 instead of 2026. I was like, what? All right. Key streaming games. Super Bowl on Peacock, but I think it's also broadcast. Sunday Night Football on Peacock, but I think it's also broadcast on Channel 4. Monday night is going to be on ESPN Plus. Thursday nights are on Amazon Prime. Sunday night afternoon games are going to...
ESPN Plus is streaming too, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then what about Apple? Apple's got to have games.
Let me put streaming only games. Okay. NFL early playoffs. The wild card game is exclusively on Amazon Prime.
All playoff games?
No, just the first wild card game.
Think about what you just said. It's on
I know.
YouTube. It's on
Wait, it gets
Amazon. It's on
worse.
Apple. I mean, what?
NFL will carry games as part of its NFL's expanding rights. Following their 2004 Christmas Day debut, will extend into the 26th season. So there's going to be games. Peacock has the Sunday night games. And the Super Bowl will be available on Peacock Premium, but I think those are also carried on NBC.
Gotta be carried on, yeah.
Monday night games, NFL games, and international games are exclusively carried ESPN Plus. I don't know that.
We talk about the game being different game than we played when we grew up and watched as fans, and even the way you view it now is different.
Okay, so what it says is, as far as Paramount Plus, it streams all the aired CBS games. That's okay.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
That's more than necessary. So Prime Video has exclusive rights to all Thursday night games and one playoff game. We know that already. We just read that. Peacock required for Sunday Night Football. I don't know if that's true.
I'm glad I don't work Sunday nights anymore. I'd be livid.
ESPN Unlimited need Monday Night Football and exclusive games. Netflix for the Christmas special and holiday games.
Is that because Christmas falls on a friendly NFL day? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday?
Hold on. I will pull up the calendar.
Or is it? I'm looking at
December 20th is
Friday.
on Friday. And I know this year there's a start-off Wednesday game. So it'll be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, because they do a special Friday game when the season starts, Saturday, Sunday.
So the first week is five days of football?
5 days of football.
That's incredible. I mean, that actually doesn't bother me. But if it's streaming, I'm not watching it. I mean, I'll have to watch it for the podcast, but
I want to say, notice to local access. The league rule is all stream-only games are still broadcast on free over-the-air television in the local markets of the playing teams.
Is it still subject to blackout?
I don't think they do blackout anymore, but I think they...
Could you imagine? My God.
I remember going to turn the game on and not being there. And you said to yourself...
Yeah, that used to happen when we were in my freshman year in college up in Buffalo. The game is blacked out. And they would fill the stadium. I couldn't figure that one out.
And the Giants, back then, you would say to yourself, what is it, 2 seats? 10 seats? The team would buy the seats. People would buy the seats so they could watch it on television.
They could watch it on TV.
Because the seats back then, the upper decks weren't really going for it.
I wonder what the average cost is for the average NFL fan to not only watch their favorite team, presumably if it's in their market, but to watch all the other highlight games. But Monday Night Football was a treat back in the day. Now it's like a chore to have to keep track of this stuff and watch these games. The Thursday night product has been putrid for the most part. I know it got a little better, but the Monday night games used to be big games. It was always two teams that were relatively good, or at least playoff teams, or big divisional matchups, whether it was Giants, Cowboys, or Packers, 40 Bears, or whatever back in the day. But I know they got away from that schedule because they wanted to have Jacksonville on a Monday night. Who cares? It just makes it less enjoyable to watch these games if there's no real vested interest other than your fantasy football team. Who does the rest of the country really care about? Teams out of their market that aren't playoff teams, or is it they're just trying to get exposure to help them sell more jerseys?
Okay, here, let's look at the ticket prices. So here we go. The average ticket prices, the most expensive ones. All right. So the most expensive average ticket price for 2005 was the Eagles were $514 a ticket.
That's to go to the game.
Yeah, average. So there's lesser price and more, right? Detroit Lions, $485.
Wow.
Las Vegas Raiders, $463. Chicago Bears, $458. I'm cutting out the change. And Kansas City Chiefs, $389. The lowest cost,
New York Jets.
no. The
Oh, right.
lowest
They have
cost.
the PSL. I forgot. Right.
So the 5 lowest ones are the Cleveland Browns. It doesn't say how much they are. The Tennessee Titans, unless it's the same, $167. The Saints, $177. And Jacksonville Jaguars, $177. Shit, I pushed. Excuse me. Here we go. And I got all the teams. All right. So we left off at the Chiefs. Buffalo Bills are, and now they give you a range. Average ticket price of Buffalo Bills is $284 to $408. Denver, $317 to $387. And it goes Vikings, Cowboys, $330 to $333. Patriots, $260 to $330. This is average now. Seahawks, $277 to $323. Dolphins, Niners, Texans, Chargers, Jets, $249. Commanders, Giants, $237. Rams, Ravens, Bucks, Carolina Panthers, Arizona Cardinals, $207. Falcons, $197. Colts, Jaguars, Saints, Cleveland Browns, $158.
That's lowest average cost.
Mm-hmm.
What were the Jets and the Giants? 200.
Giants are 237 and the Jets were 249.
Worth every penny. I got to tell you, that place is not a fun place to go. It is not a fun place to leave.
So
it is not a fun place to watch a football game.
No question about it. I used to go there all the time, and I hated it.
I mean,
I hated.
I don't mind what it was when it was
leaving.
Meadowlands. This new stadium sucks, and it still sucks leaving.
Leaving is horrible. No one directs the traffic. There are no roads to it or aft. None of the things lead anywhere.
And the facility is so big. How do you screw that up? How is it possible to screw that up? Who's designing these things? And what you consider what they paid for it. And look at what they're building now. All these new stadiums in Kansas City, Tennessee, Chicago. Who else? There's one more I'm missing. They're all getting new stadiums. Plus Vegas,
Yeah, but you hear these rumors that they're going to put a dome on Giant Stadium and that kind of stuff. They're going to redo the whole stadium for another $1 billion. I don't know how they're getting that passed.
Can you imagine? I mean, someone should do a forensic accounting of where the money went for that, because whoever paid for it got robbed. Because
you're looking at them. We both paid for it.
I know. I didn't want to go there, but every time I go, I say I'm never coming here again. Even the mall is failing, the American Dream Mall. They're right on top of one another, and you can't get from one to the other. It's just what other cities have built for their teams is vastly superior to what they built there. I mean, it's not. It's like they went backwards when they built that thing.
So this is what it says. So I asked the internet, the powers that be that aren't real people, are the New York Giants building a new stadium? The answer is no. The New York Giants are not getting a new stadium. They are staying at MetLife Stadium, which is undergoing a significant renovation to enhance the fan experience. There is no fan experience there, by the way.
But that's what they tried to sell you the first time.
Tickets will leave their home according to reports. So let's see what it is.
How long ago they built Foxborough when they said,
well, their lease
the fan experience was going to be an ergonomical seating situation so that you would move around, get to the concessions easier, spend more money, but still be able to watch the game. And
So
then they built that concrete shitbox in New Jersey.
Here's the renovations. Audio system, who cares?
Who cares?
Digital signage, who cares?
They already have that.
Luxury suites, who
cares? I think
you should know that the lease for the Jets and Giants have options to opt out of their lease.
They're not going anywhere.
2030.
They're not going anywhere. They're going to let it sit and rot and fall down around itself before they do spend any of their own money to do anything. Unless Woody Johnson drops dead and his son sells the team to somebody who knows what they're doing. They're not going anywhere. That's a crime. That's a crime. And, here I am for years joking around. The Jets should sell the team. The Jets should move to L.A. And we're in the precipice of Kansas City moving out of Kansas City. The Bears are moving out of Chicago. So why wouldn't the Jets move? Why would they stay there? It's all going to change anyway.
I mean, they ruined the track. They built a new grandstand on the other side that's just horrible. It's tiny. Everything's like they made it smaller. The restaurant, when there's big events like I don't know if you know it, but what's it called? They have standard bred horse races in September. Sometimes it's Labor Day weekend or something like that.
We're getting close to Kentucky Derby time. We're going to start looking at horses pretty soon.
Okay.
We can't talk about football every week.
No, what I was talking about
the ponies I'm into. We'll get into that.
Hamiltonian, that's what it's called. The Hamiltonian. And they have $1 million race. So that's really it. What else you want to cover before I call it quits today?
I wanted to mention the strike zone thing with the automated strike zone because we got a little further clarity on that today. So Major League Baseball is asking players to get measured for their height. So I'm not going to pretend to know how these automated systems work other than that if the ball passes through its measured strike zone, it's a strike. Obviously, every player has a different strike zone based on their length of their torso to their knees. So I still question on how they measure that because you remember Ricky Henderson used to crouch?
Yeah.
Right? A lot of guys used to crouch. That's not as popular anymore because now they swing with the stupid launch angle. But how they measure the strike zone and where they measure the strike zone is my concern. Is the strike zone just the frontage of the plate in that little box that you see on TV? Because the plate is I guess
so. Here is the official blurb from the Major League Baseball strike zone. The official strike zone is the area over the home plate from the midpoint of the batter's shoulders. Midpoint. What the hell is the midpoint of the shoulders? Midpoint of the shoulders. Shoulders to the
breastbone.
And the top of the uniform pants.
Top of the uniform pants?
When the batter is in a stance and prepared to swing to a pitch ball.
Top of the uniform pants.
And at a point just before the kneecap in order to get a strike call. Can you imagine this is exactly word for word? I'm reading it to you. Part of the ball must cross over the plate while in the aforementioned area. Strikes the ball called by the umpire, and every pitch is passed by the batter.
So the area or airspace over the entire plate, the ball must pass through that at some point.
The current was implemented in 1996. So let's go. From 88 to 95, the strike zone went from the midpoint between the shoulders to the top of the uniform pants to the top of the knees. How could there be three things?
Why are there three things? I don't understand that.
In 69 to 87, the strike zone went from the batter's armpits, which I guess is mid-chest, to the top of knees. That's always what I believe it to be.
Yeah.
The strike zone was implemented along with lowering of the mound from 15.6 to 10 inches in response to the 68 season and the dominance of hurlers.
Bring it back.
We know who that is. So
Bring it back,
I
Bob
know.
Gibson.
Bob Gibson was just
Fever,
63 to
Noel Ryan.
68. It was the top of the batter's shoulders to the knees. In 50 to 62, it went from the armpits to the knees, and that version of the strike zone was used from 63 to 68, which was the shoulders to the knees, was utilized prior to 1915, go back to the late 1800s.
So they implemented this new system the last 2 years in the minor leagues. They've been using all spring training, and they're going to use it this year. And they're going to give teams 2 challenges. So you're going to have 9 guys with egos trying to decide who's going to challenge what. Then after the last, 6 years about how do we speed up the game, and you implemented the pitch clock and blah, blah, blah. Now you're going to give 2 challenges, which is just going to slow the game down. And I know it's instant. Can we just automate the strike zone and leave it at that? It's so simple. It's automatic.
Listen, and the umpires are, no matter how much you try to break them, the ego's just out of control.
It's ridiculous. What do they have egos about? You're a freaking umpire. Just call balls and strikes. Now you don't even have to do that. Just call safer out. That's it. Implement the rules. I don't know. I feel like little leaguers could have done a better job when I was a kid than some of these major league umpires today. But the strike zone thing, to me, it's, again, I keep thinking the gambling is going to play a part in this, because you could literally bet on every pitch, whether it's a ball or strike. So I can't see how it won't go that way. I think it's going to be automated. As soon as they figure out the kinks in the system, if there are any, it's just going to be guy throws a pitch and something either buzzes or lights up green, ball or strike, and you move on. And I'm okay with that. I don't need to see the umpire and all his antics. I don't need Enrico Palazzo. I don't need all that nonsense. You remove somebody like Angel Hernandez from ever getting into anything and
when
controlling a game.
When you're in that movie, and one of the guy in the stands goes, "Hey, look, it's Enrico Palazzo." I mean, that has to be a joke that they set up from the beginning of the movie all the way to the end. And I thought that was some of the most funny thing I ever saw. If you want to talk about baseball movies for a minute, I mean, listen.
I think someone, whoever wrote that in, must have had an affiliation for the Three Tenors. Do you remember the Three Tenors?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, because his name.
See, baseball movies goes Field of Dreams, Bull Durham, and what's the other one he did?
Major League.
No, the 3 that Costner did.
Oh, The Love of the Game.
Love of the Game. With
I saw that in a preview before it hit theaters.
So good. Kelly Preston. Kelly?
Yeah.
Kelly?
Kelly Preston?
Preston, John Travolta's wife who passed away. She was so sweet and so beautiful and so likable. She played a great player, and Costner was so good in that part. And I love that. But listen, Major League is great. The only thing is that in the promo had something that they cut out of the movie when the guy hits the ball. And
he says
that ball would be out of some parts.
That ball wouldn't have gone out of. Name one.
Yellowstone. And it's too bad they took that out of the movie, because it was in the promo.
Line.
It's a great line. And you had
Bob
Bob
was in the trailer, and they took it out of the movie.
Yeah, they took it out of the movie. So, but obviously the Lou Gehrig, Lou Gehrig movie, of course.
Pride of the Yankees.
Pride of the Yankees is something, and sad as it may be, I mean, he's a New York guy. His parents were immigrants. His mother wanted him to be, I think, not an architect, but something engineer. And he goes to Columbia, and imagine that he goes from Columbia to the Yankees.
It's incredible.
And just an incredible player, total beast of a physical specimen.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you mentioned that. I mean, sorry, continue.
No, that's it. I was letting you say it.
The Yankees optioned Dominguez to AAA to start the season. So this kid's 24 years old. Spencer Jones, 24 years old, also not going to be on the starting roster or the opening day roster. At what point are they going to stop with this? Because they're clearly just – and then the kid who's been lights out all spring, I'm going to mispronounce it on purpose, LaGrange.
Right.
I think it's LaGrange. He's lights out. This kid's ready to pitch in the majors. Okay, is it an innings thing? Why isn't he ready to pitch 200 innings? The kid can pitch at this level. You see other teams constantly, young arms, young talent, 20, 21, 22 years old. The Yankees, maybe when he's 27, we'll put him on the full-time roster. Now we're looking at the possibility of it's entirely likely. Everybody says it's going to happen. We're going to have a work stoppage. So there's no baseball 2027. So these two kids that are 24 years old, going to be 25, are sent back to the minors where they're tearing it up with no major league experience and then a full year out of baseball. What's going to happen to them? You could say, oh, well, they'll still only be they're missing the prime years of their baseball lives because the Yankees are playing games with analytics and these ridiculously long, veteran contracts that expire in 10 years. And that's not a knock on Aaron Judge.
All right, I'm gonna just say it out loud. It's the owner's fault. And the owner, and you know what? Maybe they should just sell the team.
It's analytics.
They don't really want to run it like a baseball team.
It's analytics.
Yeah, I think they should sell the team.
They don't want to pay. They don't want to. Don't bring these guys up. I mean, even Judge was, started late compared to other players of this generation. But let these kids play. I don't want to see Grisham. He's not. What is Grisham? That's what he is. What we had. That's who he is. That's the best he's ever going to be. And you gave him $22 million. Why? If Dominguez can't play, trade him. If you don't want him, he's 24 years old. Either let him play every day and fail, and that's it. That's the end of your career. Or trade him. But play him or trade him. It's ridiculous now. Spencer Jones. It's another logjam that they've created. And I'm, again, not knocking anybody that's on the current roster, even though I could, and I'll save it for after first pitch. But what are they doing? Bring these guys up and let them play. In 2017, when they went to the LCS and lost to the cheating Houston Astros, no one thought the Yankees were going to go to the playoffs. No one thought they could win the division. No one thought that they could go to the LCS. And they were probably a better team if Houston didn't cheat and would have went to the World Series. Whether or not they beat the Dodgers, I don't know. But that team was good, and it was full of young players. All the young kids were playing. What happened to that? They got away from it, and they want to tell you, we're spending money here. We're bringing this. We're going to run it back. We got this guy, that guy. We got all these arms. It's 8 years of Judge now, and you've done nothing since his rookie season to elevate this team to the next level because you don't spend money where they used to spend money.
I don't know. I mean,
But the hype of these players, I guess, is my point, that if you're not going to play them, then you should have traded them for pieces that were going to get you a championship already. You could have done that. If you don't want to let them play because you're afraid they're going to mature and you have to pay them, let them go play somewhere else and then sign them back as free agents later. No, we got to have Goldschmidt. I mean, come on. You couldn't put Spencer Jones at first base and just let him play? Or what's the kid, Rice, and get rid of Grisham and let him play center field? And Giancarlo Stanton's only going to play 100 games a year, if that. So let Dominguez DH and put Stanton on the bench so he stays healthy. That's what we used to do. We used to have guys like Strawberry and Cecil Fielder, Tim Raines, right? All these bats on the bench
Wade
that
Boggs
didn't play every day. Yeah, go back and look at what those guys, how many games those guys played at the back end of their career, and they got paid as veterans, and they deserved it.
Guys
It's
from
no different
Oakland. That
now.
guy's from Oakland. I can't
Scott
think of his name.
Brocious,
But
third
it was
baseman.
another guy too.
Charlie Hayes.
Charlie Hayes, yeah, is good. A tall, thin guy, married to
Justice, David Justice.
David Justice.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, they abused him when he came back.
yeah. He was good though.
But he got them to a World Series. He won them a World Series.
So we'll wait to see what this looks like when they implement this in the league. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure about it. I mean, I think the umpires are a big problem in baseball. I always did.
Absolutely.
I think
I don't know when that became a thing, but certainly in the last 25 years, 30 years, the egos of the umpires is outrageous.
You're right. And that's not my strike zone. I have a different strike zone. Everybody's got to deal with it. Well, guess what? I mean, certainly, the league, Major League Baseball, broke them when they struck last time, which was a big deal in unified American and National Leagues. But it goes back farther than that. And these guys are just out of control. And if you can replace them with electronics, go right ahead.
I agree. I don't see why we don't. It's silly to me. And then just imagine this. Imagine a guy, imagine a guy striking out using the challenge. He loses the challenge on a close pitch. Maybe he thought it was a strike because they're not allowed to look, right? Like they don't have access to call it on the fly, which is another kink in the armor. Who cares? So this guy calls a challenge. It's the third, it's the fifth inning, maybe the seventh inning. He loses the challenge. Now it's the ninth inning, and he's up again, out of challenges. And he strikes out looking on a pitch that's out of the strike zone. I mean, that guy's going to get crucified.
There's never going to be enough challenges.
Right. So just let the machine do its thing. It's a strike. Ding. Green light.
We'll see how it is.
Red light.
We'll talk about it again. We didn't talk about F1 this week because it's not till next week in Japan, which is a great track. The biggest news is that Lewis Hamilton's been seen walking around Japan with Kim Kardashian.
Oh, it's the end of his career. Sorry, Judge.
No, he's had some amazing girlfriends over the course of his career, and he's a nice guy. And, she'll probably destroy him like she destroyed everybody else. But,
oh, boy.
He has, listen, at least she's dating somebody that makes $100 million a year, So,
Amazing.
Having said that, we'll see you next week. We'll have Keith back, talk about where we are, NCAA. We'll talk more about football and what a disaster it was to watch the Yankee game on Netflix, and we'll whine and complain like we always do. Please like and subscribe. Thank you, Justin. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Talk to you soon.
See you next week.